play situations.
Bro, this is a Motley Crue concert.
I can't believe we got Ronnie Radke doing this trend. As always, make sure to follow my social media accounts at It's Lielers on Instagram, Threads, and X, and subscribe to my YouTube channel at It's Lielers. And also do not forget to follow me on TikTok at Lielers. Lielers on TikTok. So, good news, guys. Yesterday, I went to go watch Terrifier 3, and we're definitely going to be talking about the spoiler-free and the spoiler version. So yeah, stay tuned for that. But we're going to leave that at the very end of the episode, just in case if you guys are interested in watching this movie. Also, I have more explanations of why Joker flopped the box office. Disturbed announcing their 25th anniversary tour for Nightmares. And also the results of yesterday AEW's Wrestle Dream. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get this episode started. So before we kick off the movie category and everything else that I have for you guys in pop culture, I wanted to kick off this episode with something that you guys may have not heard of. So Jenna Fisher, who plays Pam Beesly in the Office franchise, announced on social media that she was diagnosed with breast cancer last December, but the good news is that she is now cancer-free. Since this month is breast cancer awareness, Jenna took the opportunity to encourage women to take the yearly mammogram exams to detect breast cancer early before it spreads. She also did say that if she were to wait any longer, she could have been in a different scenario. But I'm glad that she's okay. You know, everybody's been saying it. Pam is a tough fighter. So yeah, hopefully this encourages a lot of women that are listening to go take those yearly mammogram exams. I know it's so uncomfortable, and we got to do it just to make sure we're healthy on the other end. It sucks, but men have it worse. They have to get prostate exams, so that's even more uncomfortable. It's the things we do just to make sure we're healthy. But anywho, the other thing I also wanted to talk about. Has anyone been guilty of seeing these videos of people saying, oh, like, this is going to be the next iPhone 20? I don't know. And it's something exaggerating, like a big ass device that looks like an iPhone 3, literally, with so many apps, like a big ass tablet and infinite apps. But when you look at the apps, they're like so outdated. Or what about like those futuristic cars, you know, the ones that are like flying? It's saying that, oh, this is the next thing. Or where like the wheels are like popping out so smoothly, like if it was Iron Man or Ultron, you know. Well, I thought I saw something that was fake, but it turns out it was actually real. I saw and I checked my sources. So in case you didn't know, Tesla unveiled what they're calling Robo-Taxi. And it's going to be a self-driving car with no steering wheels or pedals. If you think about it, the future of self-driving vehicles is here. One of them is from a company, I don't know if you guys ever heard of or seen it. It's called Waymo, and they're actually very popular in Austin. It's just those self-driving Ubers where you don't have to interact with the driver and whatnot. It's a little bit risky though, if you ask me. And yes, I've seen those videos on TikTok where people are like, oh my god, where's my driver? I'm in a self-driving vehicle and this and that. And I'm like, really? Like, we get it, you have money to afford a driverless Uber, you know, whatever. But here's the discussion. Will Tesla be able to beat companies like Uber and Lyft when it comes to ride sharing? You know, because there are scenarios where people avoid Uber or Lyft because of, you know, shit that happens. For example, like women drivers who work for Uber getting harassed by men who are being driven around God knows what. Or, you know, vice versa, where women who are trying to use the Uber service or, you know, Lyft, who feel unsafe because their driver is a man and, you know, could easily kidnap them. I don't know. It's stuff like that that can happen. And it hasn't happened to me, but which is more reasons why I am grateful I have a car. I refuse to use Uber or Lyft unless if it's like necessary, but I still have my guard up because you just never know. And the thing about like these self-driving vehicles, it can be really risky because we've seen videos where Tesla drivers are using the autopilot, and yet like on one scenario where the person is using the Tesla, they almost ran through a train because it couldn't detect people in front of it, and it's not willing to detect like moving vehicles or whatnot, but it's a train. So it's like, how does a Tesla can comprehend there's a train in front of them that's passing by, and you just got to stay alert and pump the brakes, you know? It's just stuff like that where people are like skeptical whether to use the self-driving services, but at the same time is more convenient again than using Uber and Lyft. I don't know, only time would tell, and we will see how this is gonna pan out. I did read on the comment section that supposedly Elon Musk promised other technology that hasn't come around. So maybe this might be one of those projects that he announced is going to happen, but it hasn't. And I'm just like, well, he did make the announcement for Cybertrucks. And I've seen them everywhere here in Houston, and it's like shitty. Every time I get behind one, I see a dumpster, literally. And somebody even made a video of trying to throw their trash on a Cybertruck, but then somebody stopped them, and it's like, no, that's a Tesla. And they're like, it looks like a dumpster, literally. But we'll see. We'll see how that will go. And with that being said, let's go ahead and kick off the movies category with Joker Folie Ducks. Why did this movie flop the box office? In case you didn't know, the movie ended up opening with a 37.8 million on its first weekend. That is literally less than what Morbius made, and I'm kind of shocked. The first movie, when it released, it made 39 million just on Friday alone. So Culture Crave provided us with this beautiful infographic on Joker Folie Ducks, details on the disaster. Some of it we may have talked about it like last week whenever I was talking about the movie, and then the other parts it's like, wait a second, I did not know this was true. Like, for example, number one, they did say that the idea came to Joaquin Phoenix in a dream, and I'm like, my boy, were you the reason why? I don't want to put the blame on Joaquin Phoenix. Just know that. No, my boy is an Oscar winner. I can't believe he destroyed this movie. But still, here's another one. Number two, they contemplated on putting on a Broadway show before committing to making a movie. And I'm like, that will also make sense. But it would have flopped even as a Broadway musical because, again, the storyline did not intertwine with that Broadway musical. So I guess, I mean, it was going to flop one way or another. The other one we did talk about it, number three, which is Todd Phillips had the free reign with Warner Brothers wanting him to, quote, do his thing. And the film had no test screenings. So we already knew that. Number four, Lady Gaga signed on before the script was finished. So she was like, I'm putting my trust in y'all. I mean, y'all won Oscars. I could win an Oscar on here. But no, like, you should have read the script before signing. But at the same time, who else was going to get the role that's a singer? You know, I don't think Ariana Grande would have done this one. I mean, she's doing Wicked, so there's that. I don't know. Number five, we did mention it, but there's something here that I did not know. Even though James Gunn has zero involvement for this movie, he did give notes to Todd Phillips, but Todd didn't use them. And I'm like, that makes sense. Number six, the film had a huge budget, which was set at 200 million, including 20 million salary for Joaquin Phoenix and 12 million for Lady Gaga. That's a lot of money. But we talked about this even with Godzilla Minus One and the questionable high budgets for these movies that are going to be flopping at the box office, because Godzilla Minus One had a really, really small budget and they made the most beautiful movie I have ever watched, which again, I think Godzilla Minus One is now considered my top 5 movies. So yeah, there's that. But anywho, yeah, that high budget, I don't know. But again, Hollywood is never going to learn when it comes to these budget sets. So, and we're going to talk about Terrifier in a bit about that. So yeah. Anywho, number 7. Musical aspect was largely downplayed in marketing, with director Todd Phillips at first insisting it wasn't one. But yeah, I mean, I mentioned it before in the podcast that it was going to be a musical, and I questioned it too. But yeah, they should have just said, hey, it's a musical, be prepared. But even then, not a lot of people are fans of musicals. So even if they did announce it, more people would not have seen it. And who knows, maybe they would have made even less money than what they're doing right now. So anywho, number 8. Christopher Nolan reportedly changed the ending of the first movie because it ended with Joker carving a smile, but there was no resistance for the sequel with Nolan leaving Warner Brothers. I don't know, do what you will with that information. Number 9, Todd Phillips was secluded on a ranch during opening weekend. Oh god, so he kind of already knew it was gonna flop. Number 10, the Rotten Tomatoes score and the audience score obviously was very low. 33% for Rotten Tomatoes score, 31% for the audience score. To top it off, number 11, the cinema score was at a D, the lowest ever for a comic book film. Number 12, domestically opened with 37.8 million, which was lower than comic book films like Morbius and the Marvels. Number 13, it needed at least 450 million globally to break even, which may lose the studio over 150 million. And then lastly, number 14, Warner Brothers Discovery is already over 40 billion in debt. Sweet Jesus. I mean, here's a teeny tiny spoiler, because the way how the movie ended proves to show that there won't be a sequel after all. I feel like Todd Phillips just plotted it to where it's gonna be its final scene, final movie, that is it. So yeah, don't expect a sequel for this one. Anywho, you might hear Cosmo in the background munching on some plastic because she's bored while I'm recording, so yeah, ignore her. But anywho, let's go ahead and move it along. Remember how last week I mentioned that I had no hopes that Venom: The Last Dance will do good in the box office? The movie is not even out yet, and we already have a glimpse of Venom Frog. The first thing I said was, what in the Sharknado CGI is this? You already know that my hope that this movie would do well is now buried underground. Again, the movie comes out in 2 weeks, but we won't be talking about it until November 3rd after the SpaceCom blog. So yeah, in 2 weeks, there won't be a podcast video, so you guys already know. Now, let's go ahead and move it along. Christopher Nolan is actually planning to cook a new film, which is set to release on July 17, 2026. It is also being said that Matt Damon is in the talks to be the lead actor. Filming is set to start in early next year, 2025. And Nolan wrote the script and is planning to return to Universal. So that is your little, okay, we gotta stay on the lookout on a good movie from Christopher Nolan once again. The question is Hans Zimmer coming back to make the music? We'll see. The next thing I wanted to talk about, in case you didn't watch the blog video where I was at the Houston Horror Film Festival, I talked about how Lilo and Stitch is going to be getting a live action film. Well, we finally have a release date, which is going to be set on May 23rd, 2025. This was a missed marketing opportunity because I saw in the comment section where this person that goes by Lee Charles 2000 posted, quote, "Why would you not do June 26, 2025? In other words, 6-26-25. 626 people, But then again, it only applies here in North America because everywhere else you wouldn't have it at the same format. Instead, it will be like 26-6-25. So I guess. But I was just saying, I'm like, experiment 626, just saying. Anywho, the other thing I also wanted to talk about, and it's actually another infographic that I got from Culture Crave, where they're talking about the projects that are going to be coming up for John Wick. So if you're fans of the franchise, listen up. There is a potential talks about having a John Wick 5, even though Keanu Reeves says, that's it, John Wick 4 is done, whatever. But they're saying that John Wick 5 could potentially take place before the character's death. So I'm like, We'll see. If Keanu Reeves does not return, I want no part of it. The other project is, of course, Ballerina. We already talked about the trailer that's already out. Definitely go check it out if you haven't done so. But there are tentative plans for a sequel if it's successful in the box office. The other project is the potential Kane spin-off where Donnie Yen will reprise his role. The other one is John Wick Under the High Table, which potentially won't feature John Wick, but takes place after Chapter 4 and follows new characters. So, dun dun dun. And then there's also a potential John Wick animated series where supposedly the anime will create stories that the TV show can't. And then lastly, a potential John Wick game, which is looking at making a big budget at AAA game. So we'll see how that's gonna look. And then the last thing I have for you guys in the movies category, remember how back in July, sweet Jesus, it's been a long time, I talked about the Hellboy reboot, you know, the one where people were like, that's not Hellboy, that's Heckboy. I freaking love that comment still. But I think the movie's already about to come out because IGN already gave it a rating. I talk shit about the IGN ratings. I really don't talk about them as much whenever we're doing movie reviews. But fuck it, let's talk about the one that they give for this movie. So, Hellboy, the Crooked Man. IGN rated it a 6 out of 10. 6? Really? And this is what they said. Hellboy, the Crooked Man, never really reaches the heights of the two Guillermo del Toro directed films that launched Hellboy's cinematic career, nor is it as frustratingly lousy as the 2019 reboot. This third attempt at a live-action Hellboy franchise falls comfortably in the middle. Really now? Reasons why I will always question IGN ratings. And yes, every time they post a rating, there's always someone in the comment section on social media saying, remember, they gave She-Hulk a 9 out of 10 or something like that. And She-Hulk was bad. So I don't know. Do what you will with that information, like I always say. If you're planning to watch it, by all means. Am I gonna watch it? Hell no. I'm not gonna watch it, nor I'm not gonna do a movie review, but like I said, that's why I'm like, let me just mention this on here. And let's go ahead and move on with the television category. I got some Euphoria news for y'all. So Zendaya confirmed that the season 3, the one that we've been all waiting for, will have a time jump. I'm like, what the hell? So she said in an interview, quote, "It will be fascinating to see and understand these characters outside of the context of high school, how all the stuff that we saw when they were kids and they were in high school affects the adulthood they have and who they become in a much bigger world." All I gotta say is, what in the Riverdale is this? Because I think Riverdale had a time jump. And then after that, they lost all viewership after that. I was into Riverdale for so long, but then I don't know what happened. I stopped watching it. And then when I got back, I'm like, oh God, what did they do? But the thing is that everybody already knows that season 3 for Euphoria, like, it's done. Like, there's no way of coming back at its peak for the same reason of the drama that's been going on behind the scenes. So I don't know how it's gonna be, but I can't wait to watch it and see what's gonna happen. Anywho, the next thing I have for you guys is Green Lantern news. So Aaron Pierre has been casted as Jon Stewart in the Lantern series. In case you didn't know, I had to look this up because I didn't know who he was. I'm not too big on DC Comics, but Jon Stewart is the leader of the Green Lantern Corps and a member of his honor guard. And then Aaron Pierre is known for playing Caesar in Amazon Prime's The Underground Railroad. Oh my God, it's a tongue twister, but I tried. I sucked at saying it in high school too. But he also played Malcolm X in Genius. So definitely go check out those shows if you haven't done so. I did read the comment section and everybody is in favor for the actor playing this character. So good news so far. But I do have some bad news for another news. So another series has been canceled, but this time comes from Max. That series happens to be Velma. You know, the one where Mindy Kaling voices the character. So this series will not be returning for a third season, making the second season its final. To be fair, I saw the ratings on IMDb and it has a 1.6 out of 10. And that is reviewed by 80,000 people. Almost 80 actually. It was like 79,000 so-and-so. But still, a lot of people were hating that series. So I guess some would say it's about damn time. And that's all I have for you guys in the TV category. Let's kick off music. And we're going to go ahead and start talking about Ice 9 Kills. So they released the music video called A Work of Art. We talked about this already. But I was not expecting this video to be like 15 minutes long. So yeah, it's a very long music video-ish. But they did announce that the music video will be playing right after the showings of Terrifier 2 and 3, but in select AMC theaters. And I'm like, I saw Terrifier 3 at Cinemark, so whoops. But anywho, the music video shows the band performing the song while Art the clown is seeking to terrorize a pregnant lady. And yes, there is a lot of blood. Just like the way how we see the movie, that's how it was in the music video. But I also cannot help but to see that Art was jamming not only on the bass, but also piano and then pulling a little trumpet right there. It was just hilarious. But speaking of Ice 9 Kills, I also did find out that the drummer Patrick Galante announced his departure from the band. He posted on social media this big picture of him playing the drums, and it looks like it might have been during Metallica set. I don't know. But he said, quote, "Performing with Ice 9 Kills has been an incredible experience, and I can't thank my brothers in Ink, that's the abbreviation, enough for their trust and faith in me throughout the past 6 years. That being said, I have made the difficult decision to part ways with Ice 9 Kills. I'm excited to watch Ink continue their success as I pursue other creative and musical projects. I would like to thank you all for the continued support of my endeavors. I'm looking forward to the next chapter of my life and career, so keep your eyes and ears open for what's to come." And then dash Patrick. So I went to the Ice 9 Kills band history. It's on Wikipedia, just so y'all know. The only original member happens to be the lead singer, Spencer. So I'm like, what were we talking about Linkin Park again? So it is what it is. I mean, they don't have original members anymore. So at this point, it's whatever. Because I'm pretty sure the music and the visionary originates from Spencer. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll see where he's going to end up. I'm pretty sure probably at another band. Who knows? Because that's what a lot of band members go for. They audition for other bands that are needing of replacements and God knows what. So there's that. So if you guys are fans of the drummer, we might potentially talk about him depending if I see it on my feed somewhere else. But anywho, let's go ahead and move away from Ice 9 Kills and let's go to Slaughter to Prevail. We got more news. Yes, let's go. So we're finally getting Behelit. Literally, last time we talked about this song, it was being teased back in July. Like, what's been happening with July? But anywho, Alex was literally jamming out to the song, and I even mentioned that the song had hints of Rammstein in there, so I'm really excited. So the song is set to release on October 15th. My question is, will we also be getting a music video? Or is it just going to be the video like of them performing the song live? Because that's where they teased it. And that's the same video that we were getting on social media. Here's a little side note. Tell me why when I saw the announcement on social media, literally it said 28 seconds ago. And I'm like, oh my God, wow. And I was at work when it was happening. So I'm like, let me just repost it really quick. I mean, seriously, 28 seconds ago. But yeah, so keep your eyes peeled whenever this song comes out. We're probably going to be talking about it. But I'm over here like, release the freaking album already. There's another video of the song Skull and Bones. I think that's what it's called. That is from Slaughter Prevail. That I already got to see it on my TikTok feed. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting all of these sneak peeks. I just want the album, damn it, so we can talk about it. But anywho, let's talk about something else. Limp Bizkit's Fred Durst is suing Universal Music Group and is seeking almost over $200 million for unpaid royalties. Basically, what happened was that the band has not been receiving any earnings from their label for quite some time. We're talking years. And then apparently there were some representatives from the band that went to the label and asked what the whole deal was. And then UMG was like, oh, well, here's $1 million. Ha ha ha. Nothing suspicious here. And that's what led to, Fred Durst saying like, what the hell? Like, we haven't been getting paid for some time, so we need to sue the label. And that's the thing. They have been in the dark about what could potentially be their earnings that they should have received over the years. So UMG's excuse was like, oh, well, we paid you in an advancement and we're still trying to get that money back with the earnings you may have received. But then again, why so suddenly they're giving them $1 million out of the blue? Just when they asked. So the lawsuit was initiated by Fred Durst on behalf of the band, but the thing is that this lawsuit is also covering of other musical groups, and what if they were also in that same situation but they're still not aware of it? So like, what the hell is up, UMG? And that's the thing, a lot of people are now asking the whole question like, what if record labels are so greedy that they haven't been paying fairly to all of these bands that we listen to? So, yeah. Do what you will with that information too. But anywho, let's go ahead and move it along. Godsmack's Sully Erna says that there will be no new music from the band, and I'm kind of okay with that, I guess. He said in an interview, quote, there will be no more new Godsmack. I mean, you can never predict the future, but the decision that was made was that we're gonna go out now and start honoring the catalog of music that we created over the last 30 years and just enjoy kind of the greatest hit moments. I'm like, oh no, they entered that stage, but they do have a lot of good songs. I actually got to see Godsmack back in 2017, I want to say 2017 or 2018. It's one of those 2 years. But they were on tour with Shinedown, and yeah, they did had a lot of good songs. But then whenever the new album came out, I like maybe like 2 songs from there, and then ever since then I haven't listened to Godsmack in a while. But yeah, it is what it is. Now the next band isn't planning on doing their greatest hits just yet, and that happens to be Breaking Benjamin. I feel like they're trying to tease something for October 16th. So they released a video that shows an old alarm clock from like back in the days, you know which one I'm talking about, and it just showed 10:16, so one can assume, right? And I'm thinking, could this possibly mean a potential new album or a song that's gonna lead up to a new album? One person did say in the comments, quote, hear me out, Breaking Benjamin, Linkin Park, and 3 Days Grace. And honestly, that will be epic, but at the same time, Linkin Park's currently on tour. And speaking of 3 Days Grace, Disturbed announced their 25th anniversary tour with special guests 3 Days Grace and Seven Dust, or you might potentially get Daughtry and Nothing More. To top it off, why are we talking about greatest hits? Because they said on literally the post, it says 2 sets, 1 show, The Sickness in its entirety, and greatest hits. Hear me out. Hear me out. Oh my god. Okay, because in the album The Sickness, there is a cover song that they did, which is Shout 2000 by Depeche Mode. I really love that song. I would love to see it, performed live. But at the same time, why is Houston getting skipped? Okay, look at this fucking list. They got so many great places, including Chicago, by the way. But when they go to Texas, they're only going to San Antonio and 4th Ward. San Antonio happens to be on April 25th. That happens to be on a Friday. And then the next day, April 26th, which is on a Saturday, they're going to be in 4th Ward. Or, Dallas, basically. And I'm like, oh my God. Why? Like, I swear, though, This is just my personal opinion. I feel like some Houstonians are gonna get pissed at me when I say it, but I have a feeling that Dallas is the new Houston, and by all means everybody should just start moving there because Houston is full. Why do I say this? Because I mentioned it before, like the combination between two cities is putting Dallas as in, oh yeah, it's bigger than Texas. Like they have the AT&T Stadium because Houston's NRG Stadium isn't as big as, again, the AT&T Stadium. And a lot of events are taking place more in Dallas than it is in Houston. I mean, yeah, again, we're the fourth largest city, but for them, it's like, no, it's combined, it's whatever. They got bigger venues, this and that. Makes sense why Linkin Park's going over there. I mean, we're getting a stop though for Metallica's tour, so there's that. But yeah, I do believe that when people think of Texas, they assume Dallas is the capital and not Austin. I don't know, that's just my 2 cents on that. But anywho, whenever I look at the tour for Disturbed, why is it screaming Slipknot's 25th anniversary tour too? Why? Because I mean, Fourth Ward is the stop, but you know, for Slipknot, they went to Austin instead of San Antonio. I mean, there's a little bit of that. But the thing is that they have a divided performers that are going to be joining them. So like the first half of the tour, they're going to have 3 Days Grace and Seven Dust. And then the other half, they're going to have Daughtry and Nothing More. And I'm over here like, well, Texas, we're getting Daughtry and Nothing More. I wanted to go see 3 Days Grace. But if I want to go see the 3 Days Grace, I have to go to either Nampa, Denver, St. Louis, Milwaukee, Minneapolis, Chicago, Detroit, Louisville, Boston, Washington, Montreal, or New York. That's pretty much it, because everybody else, you know, gets Daughtry and Nothing More. And I'm like, because now that Autumn Gontier is back in 3 Days Grace, even more reasons why I want to go see them live. But damn it, we'll see how that's gonna go. I mean, it's next year, you never know what could potentially happen. Dun dun dun. But anywho, definitely go check out the post where they announce the stops and see if you guys are interested in going. Tickets will be on sale. Well, the pre-sale is going to be on October 15. General sale will be on Friday, October 18. Now let's go ahead and move it along. So Forbes released their 38 greatest bands of heavy metal, and we gotta talk about this list. So some of them you may have heard, some of them you're like, really? And then the other some, it's like, oh my god. So yes, this list may have a lot of people question the musical taste of Forbes, but again, it's their list, it's not ours. So kicking off at number 38 is gonna be Carcass. 37 is At the Gates. 36 is Exodus. 35 is Behemoth. 34 is Napalm Death, which I haven't heard of. 33 is Kiss. I want to say is Kyuss, not Kiss. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not Kiss. 32 is Dream Theater. 31 is Nightwish. I'm like, okay, now we're getting there. 30 is King Diamond. 29 is Dancing. Okay, what? 28 is Combridge. 27 is Cannibal Corpse. Yes, okay. 26 is Anthrax. 25 is Meshuggah. Okay, I've been seeing them on tour, but I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, what the hell? I've been seeing their names so much that I need to start putting them on my radar. Anywho, number 24 goes to Machine Head. 23, Lamb of God. 22, Mastodon, and they were both on tour together. Nice. 21 is Sepultura. 20 is Typo Negative. 19 goes to Motorhead. 18 goes to Death. 17 goes to Dio. 16 is for Megadeth. 15 Gojira. I'm like, hell yeah, bump it a little bit more after the Olympics performance, just saying. 14 Korn, which again, they're both on tour. 13, my favorite, Rammstein. Let's fucking go. 12, however, I'm surprised, Deftones. I'm like, I would switch probably the spots. And then 11, System of a Down. 10 goes to Avenged Sevenfold. 9, Tool. 8, Slayer. 7, surprisingly, Slipknot. Let's fucking go. 6, Ozzy Osbourne. And then, the top 5. So number 5 is gonna go to Judas Priest. Number 4, Pantera. Number 3, Iron Maiden. Number 2, Black Sabbath. And the number 1 greatest band of heavy metal listed by Forbes is Metallica. See, and I'm already hearing a lot of people saying, how did Slipknot go above Slayer? Yes, I will admit, if I had to make this list, I mean, it's not reasonable, but would I put Slipknot at the number 1 spot? No. Maybe Rammstein, I probably would, because, I mean, come on. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, the fact that Deftones was a little bit higher than Rammstein, I'm like, it is questionable. But at the same time, it's Forbes' list. I don't know. I would ask you, like, hey, what are your top 10, favorite metal bands or musical artists? And it would just not go with everybody else's. Like me, my top 4, and I only have top 4 right now because number 5 spot is very debatable, but so far I've been listening to the same bands over and over again that I would just consider them my top 4. Obviously number 1 being Slipknot, but for the same reason that we got the history. And it's Slipknot back in the days. This is like, before the passing of Paul Gray and Joey Jordison. And then number 2, 3, and 4 are very debatable because it's between Rammstein, Ghost, and Slaughter to Prevail. So they will be fighting for all of those spots, but I won't say like, oh, number 2 is for so-and-so and number 3 is for so. No, it's just going to be that. We'll just blend it in here and there. And I mean, I do listen to a lot of other heavy metal artists that I'm just like, I won't even consider them my top 10 because I don't like playing favorites for that. I'm like, am I willing to see you guys live? I mean, I already told you guys that, some bands barely enter my radar and I just say, oh, okay, this is very interesting. Like, Kubla Khan, Texas is one. And then Bad Omens and Sleep Token, that's something I've been listening to this year. Oh, and then Ice Nine Kills now, of course. Just seeing this list, though, is making me feel a little bit more excited to see what Spotify Rap has in store for me because you know how they always recap every year, like, oh, what have you been listening to for the past 365 days? And I'm wanting to see if Slaughter to Prevail will be taking over that rap list or if it's going to be another band. I don't know. That's why I'm like, I can't wait to talk about it. Potentially what? I think it's going to be in December when they release that list. So I can't wait. But anywho, that list was the last thing I have for you guys in the music category. Now let's go ahead and talk about gaming. And yes, we gotta talk about Fortnite. Ugh. Bro, how is Fortnite getting all of these characters in their game? Like, what the hell? So their Halloween season called Fortnitemares is back, and they're bringing so many characters like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Disney's Cruella de Vil, Maleficent, and Captain Hook. And we mentioned last week that they were also going to bring in Jigsaw's Billy the Puppet. But I also saw other characters like She-Venom of all things, Edward Scissorhands, and then Jack Skellington as the Pumpkin King. And I saw Sally in the background, so I don't know if she's going to be playable or not. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be more other characters. So with that, all I got to say is, again, do what you will with that information because I'm not playing it. Now, there's another thing that some fans are not surprised, and this goes for Call of Duty fans. Nuketown is returning and will be available in Black Ops 6. When did it leave? And also, why does this feel like this is the most overused map that ever existed in the history of Call of Duty? A lot of people were saying in the comment sections that they were not surprised and also knew that the map was going to return. I mean, if you take it away, not a lot of people are going to be playing Call of Duty. The next thing I also wanted to talk about is that Xbox is going to be collaborating with Indiana Jones and revealed a special edition Xbox Series X. However, this console is not going to be on sale. and can only be won by fans who are visiting the Microsoft Experience Centers in London, Sydney, and New York, where they can solve a puzzle inspired by the game. I'm like, at this point, whatever happened to selling these consoles? Maybe y'all can make good money, Xbox. Just saying. I also did see on the comment section one person asking like, hey, whatever happened with the winner who probably won the cheeky controllers where Xbox collaborated with Deadpool? But another person is like, we haven't heard anything, so it might have been a scam. And I'm like, damn, Xbox, it really be like that. But yeah, I haven't heard anything too, so oh well. In other news, 343 Industries announced that they will be changing their name to Halo Studios and is planning to develop more Halo projects. Could this possibly mean that they're gonna be remaking the first Halo games? We will see. Stay tuned. Other things I also wanted to talk about: Creative Assembly confirms that there will be a sequel for Alien Isolation. The first game was released 10 years ago and fans are saying it was so good, but IGN rated it a 5 out of 10. So maybe IGN just needs to play the game properly if the sequel were to come out and hopefully give a proper rating. So yeah. The last thing is that Red Dead Redemption and Undead Nightmare will finally be available on PC after 14 years since its release. The game will be available on Steam and Epic Games Store on October 29. However, it looks like PC players found ways to play this game through emulators. And that was all I have for you guys in the gaming category. Let's talk about wrestling and make our way to Terrifier 3. So it's official, we do have our first matches confirmed at WWE Crown Jewel, but we already talked about it last week. Which ones are they? Cody Rhodes will be going up against Gunther to determine the best in the world in the men's locker room, and Nia Jax will be going up against Liv Morgan to see who's the best in the world in the women's locker room. Personally though, now that I think about it, shouldn't they make it like a triple threat and like include the NXT locker room, you know? Papa H, just saying. But another thing that will probably make Crown Jewel interesting is that Tiffany Stratton finally cashes in. That's something everybody is hoping for. Other than that, this PLE will be definitely boring for us, so why even watch it? But anywho, the other thing I also forgot to mention, I know we were stumbling so much with Bad Blood that I forgot to tell you like one important detail, is that Raw is now a 2-hour show. Like they talked about it during the press conference last week, and that will be how the schedule is going to be for the remaining of the year. However, I saw on TikTok that WWE was taking advantage that 1 hour that, you know, they're used to filming and whatnot. So they pre-recorded what could potentially be tomorrow's episode. And on the video, Tiffany and Nia make their appearance, but it looked like Tiffany was about to cash in on Liv, and Raquel, you know, pulled Liv out of the ring just to avoid all that commotion. So we'll see. And apparently the UK tour is about to kick off, so they're like, you know what, let's record this now, and then I don't know what's gonna happen after that. So we'll see how tomorrow's episode is gonna look like. The other thing, and yeah, we really don't have much to talk about in WWE news, but the last thing I wanted to talk about is that Stephanie Becerra finally made her NXT debut. So she joined Julia to clash with Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. And I'm just like, hell fucking yeah. Like, I love how this one person is like, oh, NXT is full of baddies. And I'm like, honestly, yes. I feel like though eventually Stephanie and Julia will have to clash just like they did in New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong, because that's what happened. So we'll see. And that's what I have just for WWE news. Let's talk about the results of yesterday's AEW Wrestle Dream. Now, I'm not gonna go into depth like every single match because we still have to do the movie review, but I just want to talk about some of the matches where I was like, I wish I saw. Like, for example, Adam Hangman Page going up against Jay White, literally two former members of the Bullet Club. And I'm like, why AEW? I wish I could watch it. But again, I only got $50 to pay the freaking pay-per-view thing. And since I didn't get to watch clips of the clash that they went through, I went on Bleacher Report just so they can describe the little highlights that they had for this match. For example, this is what it says. Switchblade slapped Hangman to get under his skin, and it worked perfectly. The always angry Paige became irate and beat White down mercilessly. This turned into a slow, methodical match that mostly consisted of Paige dishing out punishment as the crowd tried to rally behind White, which is why I was kind of rooting for Jay White, so just know that. Anywho, it says here, while the pace may be slower than some expected, it felt appropriate because it allowed both men to properly sell every moment and move. When Switchblade made a comeback, the crowd was popping for everything he did. They told a story in this bout. Every big move mattered, and their rivalry felt genuine by how they fought. This was a perfect example of doing more with less. White ended up getting the win by countering a buckshot into Blade Runner. Hangman fumed as White celebrated, and this was an outstanding from start to finish. So, in other words, Jay White defeated Hangman Page, and they rated it an A-, so I guess. But I'm glad. I wish I saw it still. The next match was Jack Perry versus Shibata, but here's the thing, I'm not going to talk about the match itself. I mean, obviously it was known that Jack Perry was going to win, but the thing is that after he won, supposedly Daniel Garcia came out to, save Shibata, but then was quickly followed by MJF. Now that MJF is over there attacking Daniel Garcia, all of a sudden, Adam Cole has returned to AEW. So I'm like, so that makes sense. He's still not going back to WWE. But yeah, now that's that. The other match I also wanted to talk about is Will Ospreay versus Ricochet versus Konosuke Takeshita. And this one is for the AEW International Championship. This one, again, I have no idea what to tell you guys, but Takeshita won the International Championship. So yeah, we're going to see more of him with that belt whenever the next showing of Dynamite comes around. So there's that. And then whenever I was scrolling to see what other matches that were held in the pay-per-view, so many of them were so random. I'm like, where's the story behind this? Like, for example, Brody King versus Darby Allin. I'm like, what the hell? But no surprise, Darby ended up winning that match. The main event of this pay-per-view was Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley for the AEW World Championship. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if they talked about it because, again, these storylines make no sense. But I felt like if Bryan Danielson does not retain, eventually he's either going to have to go to part-time or he's just going to have to retire as a wrestler. Why do I say this? Is because Jon Moxley actually defeated Bryan Danielson. And the reason why was because apparently the ref decided that Bryan Danielson could no longer compete and declared Jon Moxley the winner and the new champion. So yeah, we'll see. Again, I'll watch AEW, but I don't know if they're gonna set the record straight. We'll see. But anywho, that's all I have for you guys in the wrestling category. Now let's talk about Terrifier 3, kicking off the spoiler-free version. So if you guys are interested in watching it, keep on listening. So of course, how we always do with these movie reviews, let's go ahead and talk about the Rotten Tomatoes score and the audience score. Surprisingly, and a lot of people have said this, is that Rotten Tomatoes score is so much better than Joker Folie Ducks. So yeah, right now the score is setting at a solid 78%. The audience score is at a 90%. Oh my god. And then once I'm about to wrap up the spoiler-free version, I will let you guys know which score do I agree with, or if I don't agree with neither. This movie is currently dominating the box office at an 18 million, probably more, dollars. So yeah, there are no end credits for this movie, unfortunately. But I will say, full warning or full disclosure, however you guys want to say it. If you are sensitive to blood, this movie may not be for you. there were some scenes that made me feel like, what the hell am I watching? Like, it was just those moments. But for someone who has seen horror movies over the years, this was nothing for me. Like, when I watched Terrifier 2, I was at lunch. And yes, I did watch the famous bedroom scene that everybody was talking about. And I was eating like nothing. Like, I was not grossed out. So, yeah. Anywho, what makes this movie so different than others is that Art the Clown was literally a clown. He made us laugh. And I think that's what changes the aspect in horror movies where, oh, okay, we got some comedy out of this terrifying scene, you know. And I will say, you do need to watch at least Terrifier 2 to understand what's happening in Terrifier 3. I have not seen the first one, keep that in mind. But for an independent horror movie, it was good where there were moments in the storyline where I was so hooked, you know, compared to Joker. But there were other moments where I was like, really? Get to the point. So that's how it was with Terrifier 2. That's how it was with Terrifier 3. So the gory scenes, again, it did not disturb me, but I did find it a little bit exaggerated. And I'm talking about Terrifier 3, by the way. So Terrifier 2 is currently available on Amazon Prime, but there were moments where like I questioned things because, again, I'm like, how is this person still alive? And then the same thing with Art. I was like, how are you dead? You know, like, I'm like, ain't no way you're dead. And then when I watched Terrifier 3, it explains so much of why, you know, the things happen in Terrifier 2 basically happen. So I was like, okay. So yes, it is a continuation to the second one. I need to watch the first one to understand, okay, like, what's the whole deal with, you know, maybe potentially Terrifier 3. But by all means, like I said, just watch the second one. I think that will help out a lot too. So yes, the storyline, it makes sense in a way, but for a horror movie, yes, it makes sense. It's not stuff where you're like, what the hell, this makes no sense, or, you know, the storyline is boring. In Terrifier 3, in the beginning, yeah, I'm like a little bit cringed out, like everything's so happy but not so normal at the same time. But again, that's part of the movie. And I wouldn't even judge like the graphics, all of that, for the same reason, because again, it was an independent film. And with that being said, the budget, oh my god, so the budget was literally at $2 million, so they already got their money back and some, just with opening weekend. But at the same time, I'm like, they did so much better with a really low budget compared to, you know, like films like Joker and all of that. So I can't really talk shit about, again, the graphics and all of that. The storyline is what was more important for me when watching this movie, because I want to make sure, like, this is not just something supernatural or, like, you know, possessive. Like, it explains so much on Terrifier 3. You get more of the lore than what you got maybe on the second and maybe on the first one of the Terrifier franchise. Say what you will though, but Terrifier 3 is now a Christmas movie too. So, do I recommend this movie for y'all? Definitely. If you are a horror fan who is not sensitive to blood, by the way, and is not easily disturbed, because there were some scenes that were very disturbing, and I'm just like, I don't think some people would agree on it. Definitely go watch it. I say, if I had to agree between the Rotten Tomatoes score and the audience score, I would honestly say Rotten Tomatoes score like 78, only because, again, there were some moments where I'm just like, get to the point. What I mean by this is that there were moments where it's just filled with gore, torture, people screaming, and I'm just like very impatient, and I'm just like, okay, what's the whole purpose? But again, that's part of the Terrifier franchise, so it's all about gore. It's not so scary. Like, yeah, there were some, I want to say there was like maybe 2 or 3 jump scares. I only did jump once, that's all I gotta say about that. But other than that, you get invested with the storyline, and then you get some laughs here and there. So yeah, definitely go check it out. Now let's go ahead and talk about the spoiler version, which, yes, I will talk about the explanation of the lore and other things that happen in the movie. So here is your spoiler warning in 3, 2, 1. I'm really curious to see how much fake blood was used in this movie. Like, I know Markiplier made a, horror movie that I still haven't checked out. And they used, like, I don't know how many gallons, like, probably hundreds. So, how much was it of fake blood? I need to know. Anywho, I did laugh so much in this movie, especially the part where Art kept slapping Sienna constantly. Like, that's the thing. I'm like, that don't stop. Other things, yes, get to the point, but I need consistent slaps here and there. It's like my boy was so unserious at the same time, and I love it. But here's the thing. No, we did not see Chris Jericho put the walls of Jericho at Vicky. And I was kind of disappointed to see that. I was like, really? And, he did get that moment where they were like carving his face out. And I was like, no, not Chris Jericho. But hey, I love that he was in the movie, by the way. There were moments that I did get disturbed, like I mentioned earlier. So I need to talk about it really quick. There was this scene, and I think some of you guys are already thinking about it, where Vicky was fucking masturbating with a sharp glass. I was like, what am I watching? But at the same time, I'm like, that's supposedly a demonic entity. And at that point, they don't think that's like not disturbing at all. They're just trying to get pleasure out of it. But still, I'm like, what the fuck? So yeah, I was like disturbed, but then Art was like, shame on you. And I'm like, okay, now I'm laughing. So forget about that. The other part was where the character named Cole, Jonathan's roommate, was getting a chainsaw up of his ass and his dick. That part, I was like, oh, that looks so painful. And I could have sworn, I was like, how is Cole still fucking yelling? But no, after that, I feel like he was already done, dead. And Art is just having, oh my God, I just realized it. He's killing for Art. Now that it explains so much. And I say this because on Terrifier 2, he just kept killing. And I was like, get to the point. And same thing here. Like, he just keeps torturing these people and cutting them up, and I'm just like, what's the whole purpose of it? It makes so much sense. Again, I'm new to this franchise and I'm learning as I go, so yeah. But anywho, the last scene that I found disturbing was when Sienna was getting shoved to her dead uncle's body that was all carved out by Art, and I was like, ugh, like his dick was there but it's no longer there. But still, just imagine. So yeah, that's why I was like, ugh. But other than that, the whole time I was just like, oh, it's just that, oh, okay, we're cutting limbs out, or oh, intestines are out, whatever. I didn't, find that disturbing, so meh. But the other thing I also wanted to talk about is justice for Jonathan, because we didn't get to see him actually get killed by Art or Vicky. And now there's a theory going around that could this possibly mean that he's still alive? Because when Vicky's over there telling Sienna, or Sienna's aunt, like, oh, here's Gabby, but the whole time I'm like, ain't no way that's Gabby, like, whatever. And then Vicky was like, oh, I have a confession to make, that's not Gabby. But then it turns out it was Jonathan. So that's the thing. I'm like, if she lied about that just to make Sienna think that she has no one in her family or anybody that she loved around, maybe Vicky could possibly possess Sienna. But that's the thing. We gotta wait for Terrifier 4. So, anywho, before I get ahead of myself, the ending gives us the first appearance of Art, and no, it was not during All Hallows Eve, because he is on the cover of it. People just assume. No, so Art was actually shown in a short film called The Ninth Circle back in 2008, but David Howard Thornton was not the original actor. So we get to see the lady reading the book, and I'm like, that makes sense, because that was his first appearance. And then, Sienna was unsuccessful in killing Art, so he's still roaming around. And that's the thing. There is talks that there will be a Terrifier 4, which the creator, Damien Leone, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, says that he knows already, like, the story plot, how it's gonna be, like, the conclusion, everything. But he just doesn't know how many Terrifier movies he has to make to reach that plot. alongside with that, he already knows like some of the gory scenes he wants to recreate. Like whenever he was on his way to the premiere of the movie, he was already coming up with ideas like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. So it's just gonna be like a really long franchise of Terrifier movies. So if you think about it, we're probably gonna get Saw. Like Saw has, I don't know what, 13 movies, I think. I don't even remember, but that's how many movies they have. And potentially speaking, that's how many movies Terrifier might have. Now the thing is that the lore is there. Again, this is probably one of the first horror movies where I'm so hooked in the story plot, because it's not something normal that's keeping art alive. Like for example, we've seen movies like Friday the 13th where there is no explanation of how Jason Voorhees keeps coming back to life. Or, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street, where Freddy Krueger's strength comes through the fear of children, but under the age of 18. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that. But with Terrifier, basically there is a demon entity that's taking over not only like art, but also like a person that happens to be art's victims. So on Terrifier 2 we had the Pale Girl, and then Terrifier 3 happens to be Vicky, which by the way, I do find Vicky creepy. So there's that. And then Sienna is the warrior, you know, the hero and the balance that keeps Art in check, and the only person that can potentially kill Art. And again, I did not know any of this on Terrifier 2. So whenever we went to Terrifier 3, I'm like, that makes so much sense. And that was the only time where I was like really hooked, because before, whenever the movie kicked off, you know, Sienna's getting out of psychiatric ward. She's like trying to live like a normal lifestyle. And I was like, this is really cringe. So I was like, I don't like this. And I guess I would also judge the fact that the music choice could have been different, because the parts where Sienna's talking to her aunt, you hear Christmas music in the background. But in reality, I'm like, who plays Christmas music like 24/7? I know there's some people, but like in movies, there's that. I don't know. But the thing was that another thing I forgot to say was that Art was originally a human who was normal, you know, whatever. But then whenever it was time for him to go on a killing spree, that was it, you know, that's where he can actually get resurrected by this creature, entity, whatever. So that's where I was like, this is so interesting. Like, I love this because it's answering all my doubts from the previous movie, which is more reasons why, again, I didn't even need to watch the first movie. The first movie had so many negative reviews that I was like, what's the point? And I was surprised to see that Terrifier 2 had like a whopping certified fresh Rotten Tomatoes score. And I'm like, okay, we'll give this a chance because I have no patience. También, like, you know, I want to watch this movie whenever it's getting premiere, so that way we can talk about it on the podcast, which again, I'm glad I did. So now I'm so hooked in the franchise. Like, I'm on board for this, and I'm really glad again that I did get to watch this. So now with Terrifier 4 potentially, you know, being developed, whatever, it's gonna happen soon. I just don't know when it's gonna come out. It hopefully gives us answers of what could possibly be in the supernatural, because that's where Gabby's at. Like, where did she go? Like, she just disappeared out of nowhere, you know, whatever. Also, that part where Sienna has to get that blade to pick up Gabby was so unnecessary. You know, that's just my personal opinion, but it's the movie. Honestly, though, I do highly recommend this movie. I think if you guys are horror fans, y'all should watch it. And again, it's so much different than any other horror movies I have watched. You know, having that comedic effect really just takes the edge of the suspense of this movie. We've seen other movies where people are getting possessed and there's no comedic, or even if there was, it just makes it very cringe. But the fact that Art is a clown, like he's there for comedic purposes, is just the cherry on top of this whole franchise. So yeah, and with that being said, that wraps up this week's episode. As always, make sure to follow my social media accounts at It's Lielers on Instagram, Threads, and X, and subscribe to the YouTube channel at It's Lielers. And also do not forget to follow me on Instagram at Lielers. Lielers on TikTok. Keep in mind, next week will be the last episode for October, because the following week there will not be a podcast episode. I will be editing the vlog video that's going to be coming up on that YouTube channel, which is more reasons of why y'all need to subscribe. But I will be heading to SpaceCon in San Antonio, so we're going to be recapping all of those events. Now, here's the thing. Whenever I was like doing my little research, like, oh, how long am I going to be in the convention? I kind of figured that I'm probably going to maybe explore San Antonio, depending. I'm just saying that. Given with the experience that I had at Houston Horror Film Fest, you know, I explored the venue like so fast, it was nothing. Depending how it is in San Antonio and SpaceCon, if I manage to explore the whole venue in a short period of time, and I have already taken my picture with Giancarlo Esposito, I might just go ahead and dip out and maybe walk around. There's a reason why. Probably replacing some old memories in San Antonio, but I'm not gonna say exactly why, because it's gonna be a surprise. So there's that, which is more reasons. Again, just subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch that blog video and see that little surprise that I might have for you guys. So it just all depends. We'll see. But anywho, next week we're gonna be talking about Slaughter Prevail's new song, The Healed. And I gotta dive into the little details that they have, maybe for the lyrics, God knows what. So I'm excited about that. And of course, more other things that you may have missed in pop culture. So I hope you guys did enjoy this week's episode, and I will talk to you guys on the next one.